Well, a Good Friday, a Good Friday to you, Anderson Island congregation. I thought I'd drop by a brief Good Friday meditation. Of course, you can't get to Friday until you go through Thursday, and on that Passover, during that Holy Week, Passover, Jesus is there in the upper room, there with his disciples. It must have been kind of a somber occasion. And part of the conversation was awkward. He's saying somebody was going to be betraying him. That's going to be Judas. And somebody else, they were going to deny him. And he identified him as Peter. Peter insisted, "No, that's not me. I'm with you to the very bitter end, Jesus." Well, in Peter's own life, he was very faithful to Jesus until Peter's own death. But not so much that night in the events that unfolded. Well, we get from there until a late night. Judas betrays Jesus in the garden. He's arrested. He's brought before the governor, a fellow named Pilate. And Pilate is interviewing him in the wee hours of the morning. There's a crowd that had been assembled. Yes, as Pastor AJ had mentioned in the Palm Sunday service, there was all the acclaim. And then we get to the end of the week, and another crowd is there ginned up against Jesus, demanding his crucifixion. And there he is before Pilate, and Pilate doesn't know what to make of this man. "Are you the king of the Jews?" he kept asking. And Jesus would respond, "You say it is. It is as you say," things of that sort. Anyhow, he tried to find what Jesus had done wrong, what Jesus had done that was worthy of death, and the crowd kept responding. The crowd kept saying, "Crucify him, put him to death, give us somebody else if you want to release somebody, but do give us Jesus to be crucified. Hang him on a cross. Do it for your own good name before the Roman government." Pilate, finally, nearly exasperated, Pilate says, "What then shall I do with Jesus, called the Messiah?" "Crucify him, crucify him," they all answered. Pilate asked, "What crime has he committed?" Then they started shouting at the top of their voices, "Crucify, crucify him." And here's how it reads in Matthew, the 27th chapter. Pilate saw it was no use to go on, but that a riot might break out, and so he took some water. There's a basin brought to him. He takes some water and he washed his hands in front of the whole crowd. And he said, "I am not responsible for the death of this man. This is your doing." You, me, we've all been doing it, washing our hands more than usual, I know it. The guidelines suggest 20 seconds, warm water and soap. You've been doing that. I've been doing that. And I don't know how long Pilate did that on that occasion. It may well have been 20, 30 seconds just to make a show of it. And he thought that made his hands clean. Well, Jesus was led to be crucified. It was on Friday. And if you've ever wondered about the numbers of Jesus being 3 days in the tomb, yeah, it's Friday, the way Jews would reckon the calendar. Friday was day 1, Saturday was day 2, Easter, the part of it that he was still in the tomb, that part qualified as day 3. On the 3rd day he would rise, but just a secret, we'll keep that for later. Friday is here, but Sunday's coming. I was once asked in the family business that my brothers and I had, and occasionally I would end up in the news because of my association with the King County Sheriff, and I hired a fellow who was fresh out of prison. He was fresh out of prison for a crime. I gave him a chance because I felt that an ex-con out of or in a job was safer than one who didn't have a job, and that worked fairly well for a while, but it caught the attention of some news media in the Seattle area. And then one day he messed up. I won't go into the details, but I had news cameras following me for a day. One reporter from one television station tried to make me look stupid. "Hey, doesn't this show that you just made a terrible mistake?" I said, "No, my employee made the mistake. I didn't make the mistake. I believe in people and giving people a chance and grace." Another reporter came to me and was following me around and talking with me as I was doing some other duties. And she says, "Does this make you lose hope in humankind?" And I was certain that this would end up on the editing floor in the newsroom, but that happened to be Good Friday of that year, back in the mid-90s. And I said, no, it doesn't make me lose hope. Jesus had a really tough day on what we know as Good Friday back in the 1st century. Jesus had a really bad day, and people did something terribly unjust. They crucified him. They put him to death. And that was a bad Good Friday. But you know what? There is the hope of resurrection. Okay, we'll talk about that on Sunday in my Sunday message. But remember this, Friday's here, but Sunday's coming. Wishing you a good and a blessed Good Friday, and we'll be talking on Sunday. Thank you, and God bless.